In this video, we'll discuss the features on Jason Momoa's face that point to a decisive nature, as well as the inherent allure his face carries. Enjoy. In today's face reading video, we have Jason Momoa. Now, he has been recommended in the past, and he was actually just recommended again, I think this last week. So I figured it was time to read his face. So that being said, first and foremost, if you are new to my channel, welcome. But please go up here and watch the 5-minute crash course face reading video that I made a few years back. That's a very good video in terms of orienting you to what face reading is and what it isn't. And as always, if you are finding value in my content, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and share these videos. And I really do appreciate the people that are sharing, the people that are commenting. That is the game in YouTube, and that's how the algorithm works. So any added contribution in that regard I really appreciate, and my channel is steadily growing. And for YouTube numbers, my subscriber count is still very small, but everyone has to start small somewhere, and my hope is that this channel goes to the moon, and all of you that are commenting and contributing are helping with that. So again, thanks. Jason Momoa, studly guy, handsome, very good looking. Women swoon over this guy, and he is a heartthrob, and he is definitely revered as a very sexy man, put bluntly. So let's talk about some of the features that are dominant and that I think are relevant. So first and foremost, the thing that I was drawn to were his eyebrows. So when you look at a person's eyebrows, this relates to the wood element. So the wood element, you have to think in face reading, all this stuff ties back to Chinese medicine. So 5-element theory is pervasive in Chinese medicine. So is yin-yang theory. So are the 6 divisions. There's all these terms I could throw out at you that are all of this kind of underpinning theory that gives you lenses on how to assess people. So when we talk about the wood element relates to a season, it relates to lifestyle rhythms, it relates to organ systems. But in the context of face reading, what we're going to see is the liver and gallbladder energetics show up through the jawline and the eyebrows. The liver and the gallbladder system regulate anger, hostility, and rage on the negative side, and then kindness, compassion, and empathy on the positive side. So these are just some of the metrics to think about, okay? Positive expression, negative expression. But when we see eyebrows like this shape in particular, it's what they call action-oriented eyebrows. So someone who is decisive and takes action. And when they carry this feature, when they have action-oriented eyebrows, the more check mark like they are. What that means is, according to face reading theory, is that it behooves the person to not mull over their decisions too much. You don't want to sit there and ponder and contemplate at length. Some people are more geared for that than others, and the way their energy runs, it's actually better. But for someone like this, that's really not his forte. He should sit with something for a minute and then decide, and then let the consequences fall where they will. Because as I've said in the past, regardless of the decision you make, there is a positive or negative consequence for anything that we do. So keep that in mind. So his eyebrows are very noticeable, they're very dominant, and they're very reminiscent of Jack Nicholson. So if you look at Jack Nicholson and you look at the eyebrows of Jason Momoa, these are two people with very fiery, action-oriented eyebrows. So when we see triangular points, we see points on the face anywhere. Pointy eyes, pointy tips of the mouth, at the Cupid's bow or at the edges, or we see sharp features like that all points to the fire element. And so you can sort of think of this as his eyebrows. You can sort of think of it almost like the foliage of the tree is burning. It's on fire. It's like wood metrics with a fire accent, with a fire touch. So that being said, those are the things that I would be suggesting to him to keep on his radar in terms of how he navigates his life. Now, when you look at his face, I look for patterns and shapes in faces. The reason for this is because all of the elements have a shape that associates with them. So where fire, why we think about pointiness with the fire element, is because the triangle is what relates to the fire element. So take that image, right? And you can have an equilateral triangle. You can have an isosceles triangle that are different shapes and different proportions. But what we're looking at here is when we see triangular shapes, you're going to think fire. So While his face, his wrinkling, doesn't really scream fire, because typically when we see fire in the eyes, we get the smile lines here, the joy lines, what they call the crow's feet in the West. And my teacher did not like that term. But what we're looking at is that's where we see the fire expressed in the eyes. But if you look at his face, he has checked eyebrows. His eyes slant down like this, what they call a slightly hooded eyes. So with the eyes going like this and the eyebrows going like this, there's a triangle that's implied right here. If you look at his nose, it has a downward point, triangular and pointy in nature. So in some of his core features, the eyes, the nose, and the mouth, you really see some pointedness. There's fire. So when we see these shapes, what it says in face reading theory is that the person needs to pay attention to the fire element themes, which are spontaneity, laughter, joy, bliss, things that really get you going, things that make you feel passionate, things that give you drive. That would be for him, he's going to need that fire element. So if you look at his face, there's something fiery about it, because when we think about the tips of a fire, flame, right, they're pointy, they're sharp, and they're moving quickly. So adaptability and moving quickly in thought, in action, and in movement are beneficial for a person like this. He needs to play to those rhythms because he's carrying them. So the overriding theory with face reading is that if you carry the feature, you must wield it. Think of it like with an animal in the wild kingdom. If you think of a tiger, the tiger has sharp teeth, it has claws, which means those things are there for a reason. They're meant to be used. Chances are the tiger is not meant to swim all day, every day. Even though tigers are very good swimmers, you want to think they're geared for land and bringing down prey, right? Biting into things. Human beings are no different, and the face is a microsystem for the rest of the body and the personality. So just a quick side note too, the ears are a microsystem of the body. The face is a microsystem of the body. The hands are a microsystem of the body, and so are the feet. This is why reflexology works if any of you have ever had it. If you're having gallbladder problems, liver problems, lung problems, pancreas problems, there are correspondences on the foot that relate to those organs, and people target that and they press into those points to address the whole system. So that being said, the face is one of the microsystems. It's one of my specialties, so I pay attention to this one because I think it's the most interesting and it's the most fun to look at. So fire themes there. Now, he also has a very dominant Filtrum here. Now, the thing with the Filtrum is this is a water element feature right here, and this relates to fertility. It relates to the integrity of the Jing system and sort of the reservoir for how much we carry in terms of fertility. So the metrics you're looking for are, in the Filtrum, long, wide, and deep. So what I say to people is, if you think of the Filtrum and you lay a person on their back, okay, and that little pillowy spot, the more fluid it can hold, the better. If you were to put drops of water into the Filtrum, think about how much water. Think of it like a valley floor and holding water. If it's longer, wider, and deeper, that holds the most water. That holds the most fertility. So he's got a strong Filtrum, which is great because even if, I know Jason Momoa has daughters, I believe. I think he might have 2. Don't quote me, but I think he's got 2 girls. And when we see this, the fertility marker, regardless of whether Jason Momoa wanted to have kids or not, if you have good fertility markers, it is a good thing because the potency in the Jing system, appropriate hormones, good sperm count, right? Quality eggs in a woman. Those things are important because Jing is directly correlative to longevity and how we age. So if you see these strong fertility metrics here, you see that means the person's holding sort of a surplus of yin in the kidney system and in the Jing system. So it's good. So even if you don't want to have kids, that means you've got some sizable and good quality Jing that you should be cultivating and taking care of. So that would be one of the things I would say, like, hey, this is favorable for you, right? You've got this in there. Now, he's also got a dominant mouth. So if you go to the comments and you look at Jason Momoa, they're like, oh my God, this man's mouth. They love his mouth. Like, the women are like, he's got such a pillowy mouth. So dominant features. This is earth, okay, the earth element. The earth element relates to the 5 senses. It relates to sensuality. And sensuality and sexuality, there can be crossover there, but sensuality relates to the senses. Someone who likes engaging things that are beautiful to the eyes, sight, scent, sound, touch, taste. Those things are prominent when you see a mouth like this, which means the person needs to essentially really live life and sense and feel life. Like, it's very important. And again, all human beings are going to do this, and we all need to do that. But again, when you have a more dominant feature, the allocations in this area are going to be a bit more. So you can think everyone can do a math problem, but not everyone's going to go and become a mathematician. Some people are going to deviate and become a musician and go into the arts. So you have to think these allocations, in theory, show up in the face, and you want to pay attention to them. Now, the last component that I would say he carries that is pretty dominant is also something called seductive peach luck. Peach lucks, if you want to go up here and watch a video about that and what they are and how they work, you can watch this video, and then after that I made a series of videos in my face reading playlist. You can go and check that out, where I talk about each of the individual types of the peach luck. Peach luck relates to, essentially, yes, luck, the type of luck and the grace that you can have in life, and there are elemental breakdowns of that. Seductive peach luck relates to the water element. And so usually when we hear that word seductive, we think of seducing someone, right? There's a sexual overtone. Now, while Jason Momoa definitely has sex appeal, and a lot of people find him very attractive, seductive peach luck isn't really about that. What it means is seduction in terms of bringing you into their personality. And sure, can you wield that into sexual energy? Of course, but it's more about allure, mystery. Keanu Reeves also carries this. There's sort of a quiet, misty, seductive, and alluring tone to the face. There's something that makes you kind of want to go in there. And this is exacerbated by smaller eyes. Big open eyes move away from seductive peach luck. Those kind of squinty, misty eyes, that kind of steamy look to a degree, is definitely aligned with the water element and seductive peach luck. But what that means is, in particular, when a person carries this feature, it also means part of the luck they have is that if they lean into this, according to face reading theory, is that the traumas and trials and tribulations that the person has gone through, they are going to be more well suited to talk about those trials and tribulations and make them beneficial and relevant for other people. So one of the things I would be telling him is hey, the struggles that you've gone through in life, telling those stories and conveying what you got out of them in relation to other people is really good for you. It's where a lot of your luck will come. It's where people are going to have access to you. So these are the things that I would be telling him, like, hey, play to these things, do those things. And then, there's a lot more I could go into about Jason Momoa, but these are the big core ones. Now, the last piece I'll touch on is his natural face, public persona, and inner persona. And this brings me something to about his eyes. So Jason Momoa has a lazy eye. You can see on his inner persona, the eyes deviate out, which means, okay, yes, you can think of this technically as a deficiency, right? Like an aberration in the physical expression, but it doesn't change his eyesight. He's still able to see very well. But what it means is when the eyes deviate, you want to look at the inner persona. So you want to find the side where the lazy eye goes out. And the gaze, when it's more peripheral, has this long view, prey dynamic. And what I mean by prey is, I've said this before in my other videos, animals that have their eyes that outset like this, like cows or horses, these are prey animals that can be attacked by predatory animals. And so from evolutionary standpoint, when the eyes go out like this, they're tracking the peripheral and things in their periphery to basically be careful, right? It's to pay attention to the environment. So in the context of Jason Momoa, what that means is his inner persona definitely has this wide view, open thing where it takes in a lot of accounts. So I would say at an interpersonal level, I would encourage him really keep a big, open, long view in your interpersonal dynamics. When you look at his public persona, the eyes deviate out a little bit, but they're more frontal, which means the public persona needs to be a bit more direct, a bit more frontal in terms of who you play on camera, how you present to the world. But in the inner persona, they also go wide, which means, again, that open, accessible, and peripheral energy. But interestingly enough, his inner persona is also closer set eyes and a narrower face, which means more wood energy, more criticality, the ability to focus in and be attentive to details and the little things. So he's got an interesting mix in terms of the face does this, but his eyes and the spirit and the consciousness go out. So he's got this really interesting blend of having this interpersonal nature that can be very critical, but it's also pointing to keep an open mind in that criticality. So that's, again, themes I would be talking to him about. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it for Jason Momoa. So if you've got questions or comments, please put them down below. And as I'm doing these face readings, please keep giving me suggestions, because my numbers are getting big enough now where I'm actually tailoring most of the content to you guys, and I want it to be that way. I want face reading to be taken seriously, and I want it to be educational, and people, where they have their curiosity about a person, I'm happy to jump in. So keep giving me suggestions, and I will continue to read people. All right, y'all, take care.